All right, guys, the next unit we're going to look at is we're going to look at 6.3 circles in the coordinate plane. So we know that anything with a coordinate plane, you have an x and y axis, you have all these points all over the place. So we know in the calculator, you can go in and you could type in a linear equation into the calculator, it'll show you a straight line, correct? So y equals mx plus b. You can also type in a quadratic formula and it'll give you a U shape, which is a parabola, correct? Well, the same thing can happen with a circle. You can take any circle, you can stick it on a coordinate plane, and you can find the equation of that and actually get an equation you can type in the calculator to create that circle. And the way you do that, circles in the coordinate plane, is we're going to learn something called standard form today. So the standard form of a circle, basically what you're going to do, this is what it's going to look like. So you're going to do x minus h, and I'm going to go into further detail on this in a second. You're going to square that, plus y minus k squared is going to be equal to r squared. And what I want to show you here is I have an example of a circle here. And if you look here, I have an x and y axis here. The center of your circle is always going to be represented as h and k, which is an x and a y coordinate here. So the center of that circle is going to be represented at h and k. And if y'all look here, does anybody see that inside the standard form? You have an h, you have a k. So if you look right here, the h goes right here, which is the x coordinate of the center, and the k goes right here, which is going to be the y coordinate of the center. Does everybody see that? Okay? And lastly, r is going to represent your radius. So everybody knows from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle is going to be your radius. So you're actually going to put the radius right here. And whenever you plug all that in, and if you went and type that in the calculator, that would in return give you the look of this circle inside that calculator. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys some examples of how you can use the standard form of this equation to either find the equation of a circle or find missing parts of this circle using the standard form equation. Alright, so the first example I want to show you is how you actually write the standard form of a circle. So on this example, you are given the center, which the center of the circle, if you were to go on the coordinate plane, went to negative 8, 0, that would be the center of your circle. From the center of the circle, the radius is going to be known as square root of 5, which that is also a decimal number, but we're going to leave it as square root of 5. So we all know, inside the last problem that I showed you, that the standard form of an equation, or a circle, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So literally all I'm going to do is just plug everything in, and that's going to be my standard form. So right here, we know the center is going to be represented as h and k, and my radius is going to be known as r. So literally all I got to do is plug everything in. So here we go. So h is negative 8, so I'm going to do x minus h, which is negative 8, squared, plus y minus k, which is 0, squared, is equal to square root of 5. And I don't put this in parentheses because it's actually going to change here. So now I'm literally just going to leave that like this, but I'm going to simplify it real quick. So everybody knows the double negative here is going to turn into plus. So my equation is going to be x plus 8 squared plus, do I even have to put the minus? No, I don't. So I can do y squared is equal to, and everybody knows the opposite of a square root symbol is squaring it, so I'm just going to take away that. So I'm going to have 5. So ladies and gentlemen, right here, if I actually went to the calculator and I typed this into the bar and clicked enter, I would end up getting the circle of what is actually shown with the center of negative 8 and a radius of 5. So this is how you write the standard form of a circle. Alright guys, so the next example I want to show you is how to write the standard form again, but in this example you're not going to be given the radius. So whenever you're looking for the standard form of an equation, we all know that the standard form of the equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So remember, h and k comes from the center, and then r comes from the radius. So right now, I already have the center, so I already know I have my h and my k, but then I need to find my radius. And back at the beginning of the year, we learned about something called the distance formula. So right here, somewhere on the coordinate plane is my center, 5, 8. And then on the edge of that circle lies a point of -15, -3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 2 points, and I'm going to use the distance formula to find the radius. So we all know the distance formula as x2 minus x1, I'm going to square that, plus y2 minus y1 squared, and then I'm going to take the square root of that whole thing, and that's going to give me the distance from the center to the edge of my circle, which is also my radius, correct? Okay? So let's go ahead and plug everything in. So I'm going to go ahead and use this, my center, as x1, or I'm going to use it as x2 and x1, or y1, sorry. x2 and y2, I apologize. And then I'm going to use my point as x1 and y1. And now literally all I got to do is plug everything in to find my distance. So here we go. So x2 is 5. x1 is going to be -15. I'm going to square that. Plus y2, which is 8, minus -13 squared. Okay? And to make this thing a little bit quicker, I'm going to go ahead and I already have the answer to this. If I was to type this in the calculator, I would then in return get the square root of 841. And that would be my radius. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that right there. So this is my radius, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? So now that I have my center of my circle, which is also known as h and k, and I need the radius, which is square root of 841. So all I got to do is plug those 2 things in, and it would give me my standard form of my equation. So let's go ahead and do that. So right now, I'm going to do x minus h, which is 5. I'm going to square that, plus y minus k, which is 8. And I'm going to square that. And then the radius, which is the square root of 841, and I'm going to square that. And so now let's go ahead and just simplify. So is there anything to simplify here? No, I don't think so. So I'm going to leave it as x minus 5 squared. Is there anything to simplify here? Neither. Okay. So I'm going to do y minus 8 squared. And then lastly, the square root symbol is going to disappear because we are squaring it. So 841 is going to be your final answer here. So if I actually took this equation and I typed it in the calculator and clicked enter, I would get the circle of a center of 5, 8, and then also the point -15, -13 would fall on the outside of that circle. Alright guys, so what I'm going to show you how to do next is, earlier I showed you how to take the center of the circle and the radius and put it in standard form. Then I showed you how to take the center of a circle, find the radius, and put it in standard form. Now I'm going to show you how to do everything backwards. So if you're given an equation in standard form, how would you graph that? Okay? And so we know that if I was given an equation in standard form, which is looking here, I'm going to go ahead and just write the standard form underneath it. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is going to be equal to r squared. So let's just go ahead and think about this and pull everything out. So I know the center of my circle is going to be represented as h and k. So right now let's go ahead and look. So right now in the standard form, minus h goes right here. So my h goes right here, but if you look here, I have a plus symbol. And we know that if I was to plug a negative in for this, that would change into a double negative. So I, in return, if there's a plus here, I have to do the opposite of that. So h here, I'm going to take 4 out, but I know it's going to be a negative. So h is going to be -4. Okay? And then if we look here, minus k. I know k goes right here. Minuses match. So that means k is going to be a +1. So the center of my circle is going to be -4, 1. Then when I simplify the radius here, I have to square it. So that means whatever number goes right here in r, I squared it to get 25. So that means in order for me to find the radius, I have to take whatever number is here, and I have to take the square root of that. So the square root of that is going to be 5. So my radius is going to be 5. So now that I have my center, and now that I have my radius, I now can graph this exact equation on a graph if I wanted to. So let's go ahead and do the center first. So my center is at -4, 1. So starting from the center, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1. So right here is going to be the center of my circle. Now I'm going to go in all 4 directions, and I'm going to count out the radius so I can graph this. So I'm going to go right, up, left, and down in 5 spaces, because my radius is 5. Then I'm just going to draw my circle to show what my circle is. So going from this point, I'm going to count over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there goes an outside point of my circle. Counting from this point, I'm going to go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There goes the other point of my circle. Counting from this one, I'm going to go over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There goes another point of my circle. And then down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here's the other point of my circle, which that's kind of, I drew this so it might be a little weird. But that's how you would do it. And then you would basically just draw your best circle that you can to graph this. So if I did my best circle here, it's not going to be perfect, but you guys can justify and see this is how you would technically graph your circle. And drawing it on paper, this is how you would draw your circle. I know it looks messed up. But basically, you would pull out the center, pull out the radius, and then you could graph it on a graph paper. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how you take the standard form and graph it.